Good evening and welcome to Footy Furnace Trade Edition. So much on the agenda tonight. All the big names: Curnow, Merrett, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, Rowan Marshall, Clayton Oliver, Christian Petracca, and so many more. Let's get straight to it and welcome three of the best in the business. James Hird, 1996 Brownlow medalist. You've been unbelievable this trade period, and I'm looking forward to your form tonight.
Spent a lot of time together, Tom, and looking forward to tonight.
James Hird, Jimmy Bartel, 07 Brownlow medalist. Welcome to you.
Thanks, Tom. I'm pretty pumped to see things are unfolding at a rapid pace. No down days in trade period this year.
Exactly right. Yes, and only a week to go until the deadline. And the man who broke the biggest story in footy this year, Nasiah Wanganeen-Miller, re-signing. Twomey joins us again.
Oh, my favourite time of the year, Tom. Looking forward to tonight.
The Macca's menu, as always, is packed. I just mentioned a few of those topics that we're going to be right across tonight with Cal, Jimmy and Hird in. If you go through them one by one, it's actually quite incredible. Some of the big names that are available this year: Petracca, Oliver, what are Collingwood doing, the Western Bulldogs, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, and Cal's Phantom draft, a bit of draft news later on as well. But tonight we start with that man, Clayton Oliver, who is fast becoming one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest, this trade period, as of the last week when Melbourne decided to essentially move him on. Cal, we know that he's been telling Giants players he's going to play for them next year. How imminent is this decision?
Yeah, decision over the next 24 to 48 hours to officially inform the Giants and Collingwood and Melbourne of his likely status now to be his preferred destination going to the Giants. He spoke to Justin Leppich, the football list manager at Collingwood today. He's still in Sydney. Clayton Oliver, he spent a few days there, obviously, this week. There's been less communication, clearly, with Collingwood than there has been with the Giants. So he's absolutely leaning the way of the Giants, and I think it's a good fit. It's just a matter now of formalising that over the next couple of days.
So we told you last night that he spoke to a player on the weekend telling you he's coming. He also had an interesting doorstop, not Clayton Oliver's first interesting doorstop yesterday when he was entering the club, courtesy of Channel 7.
Giants a good fit, do you think? Do you like the facilities?
Love the facilities.
You're also meeting the Pies sometime up here. What do you like about them?
What do I like about them? Like them better than Melbourne, that's for sure.
I guess how frustrating was to be told to look elsewhere by Demons?
Frustrating? No, it's the business, mate, isn't it?
Hirdy, is it a good fit, the Giants, for Clayton Oliver?
I think it's an excellent fit. I mean, if you look at the Giants list, they've got a lot of top-end talent. They've got younger players, but they don't have that experience in the middle. And I think, Jimmy, you know that list better than anyone. But it seems like it fits. People have been talking about can he and Tom Green play together, but it's more than just two players. They have enough speed and outside run. I think it's a really good fit. And, I mean, for me, Clayton Oliver was, almost the best player in the competition 5 years ago. He gets back to anywhere near that sort of level. It's a fantastic fit for the GWS Giants. But I ask you, Cal, it's a disaster for Melbourne, isn't it? It's an absolute disaster. Well, I think not on the current administration, but on the past administration, to let a player go who's, AFLPA best and fairest twice.
He's not that player
four-time
anymore,
best and fairest, but they're paying half his money. And he's leaving.
This is part of a reset, clearly, though, isn't it, at Melbourne? Now, they've asked Stephen May to look at his options. It's more likely than not he stays at Melbourne now. Clayton Oliver is on the move, and Christian Petracca, in a different way, is on the move as well to Gold Coast. I don't agree that it's a disaster. I think it's now an opportunity for them to create something out of that and move past this last couple of years, because it hasn't worked.
But Petracca and Oliver leaving the club surely has got a disaster written all over it. I mean, maybe it's the best that they're making the best of what they can with the situation.
Yep.
But to have those two players walk out of your club, what they can be, I think is a disaster.
It's part of making the best of it. When you look at the Giants' hand, it's 13, 34 and 36. So 34 and 36 are essentially the same pick. I know they're two different. But are they trying to get pick 13? And are the Giants then asking, if you want pick 13, we need more than half paid? Is that what the haggling will be about now?
I think that'll be the negotiation. I doubt the Giants give up that selection, but it will be about the salary dumping and how much you can take. And we've seen that in previous scenarios, haven't we? How much money you take, you get a better pick, or how much money you give in, you get a better pick or a lesser trade. So that's part of the negotiations. But they have a lot going on, Melbourne, and not just with Clayton Oliver, obviously, because they have to work out how this fits in with their overall strategy with Christian Petracca in that deal too, Tom.
So Hirdy, you think that Melbourne should have done this last year?
I do. I just think if you look at where the club's at, yes, I can see a new CEO and a new coach have come in, and good on them to make these tough decisions. But you look back over the history of the last 2 or 3 years, they didn't do it last year. And it's a cautionary tale for another club out at Tullamarine about what they choose.
Just remind us what was on the table for Clayton Oliver last year.
Well, there was a first-round pick from Geelong and a 6-year deal there, essentially.
At $1 million a year.
Yep.
And the year before, from Adelaide Crows as well. So they had opportunities.
Yeah, the year before, I don't think it was as strong. I mean, that was a turbulent period for him, wasn't it?
Yeah. All right, let's move on to Collingwood now, who are still wheeling and dealing in the background. It looks like they're going to miss out on Clayton Oliver. Justin Lepage was on with you on SEN on AFL Trade Radio in the last 24 hours, talking the potential to go after some big names.
Ben King and Zach Butters are key free agents next year, Victorian boys. Have you started looking ahead to what it looks like in 2026 and preparing big game hunting, Leper?
I haven't noticed. Are they free agents, are they?
Yeah, pretty good players too.
Yeah. Contrary to some people's belief, we do plan ahead for a period of time. But yeah, obviously, they're all names on the board at this point in time. They really, there's two things. They've got to have a desire to leave their current club and not be happy, and then they've got to choose us. They're two difficult things to happen.
So they've got money to spend, Hirdy, and they're clearly targeting. Cal's been reporting on Ben King for a while. Zach Butters will be available. How can Collingwood stay at the top of the tree with what they've got?
I don't think they can this year unless they go and get more. I think that their midfield won't be as good. They need a key forward. They certainly haven't got that key forward that they need. And Jimmy, the fact that they don't, Dan McStay didn't quite cut it this year. Myercheck's left. Ben King would be excellent, and so would Butters, but they're not coming for at least another 12 months.
You were very confident when you said Butters is coming across to a Victorian club. Why are you so sure? Because Port Adelaide will probably have the cap space to match whatever deal is put in front of Zach Butters, so they'll match any deal. They'll probably back themselves to have 12 months of new coach, new regime, and sell, I guess, the dream there at Port Adelaide.
Well, I don't know for sure. I'm confident that Zach Butters will come home as a free agent in 12 months' time. I don't think that's an outlandish statement, given that he's sort of in a colloquial way had a look this year. I mean, with Zach Butters, I think even Port Adelaide know they've had this deal on the table for how long, Cal?
Yeah, about 6 months.
And how much is the deal?
It would be the biggest deal in football history had he signed it at the time.
And he hasn't signed it yet. So all the writing's on the wall that Zach Butters in 12 months' time is probably coming. But when you talk about the pies, Cal, what are you looking at?
Well, I think they're going to be cashed up more so next year than this, because they've got some veterans who will be in their last year next year. Now, these guys tally up to be about $1 million, 1.2. You talk about this, the Pendles, the Sidebottom, the Howe deals. They all add up, don't they? Salary cap goes up, of course, next year again as well. So they're going to be in a strong position, and Zach Butters is going to be right on the tip of their tongue as one of their targets.
But Jimmy's point, if Port Adelaide can match, right, and they've got this massive offer, they've got this massive war chest there, Collingwood can't offer $2 to $2.5 million for Zach Butters. They don't have that room.
Why not?
Well, I don't. I'm ask rather question. Do you think they've got that room in the cap?
By the end of next year, you make the room, don't you, and work it out later. The other bit, though, Tom, is they actually have some more creativity with their picks too. Yeah,
that's exactly right. So Collingwood, via I guess a tweak to the draft rules, are now allowed, and any club can do this, they've essentially been given first-round picks for 2023 and 2024. Now, we know they took a first-rounder in 23, they didn't in 2024, and that would allow them then to trade out their first-round picks in 26 and 2027. And this was communicated to clubs recently. And the reasoning, as I understand it, is because Tasmania's coming in, so they wanted to give these clubs more flexibility, which is, it's a shift, but it's good news for the Pies and any other club that might not have used their first-round picks last year.
Jimmy, you have been talking to Port Adelaide about, obviously, the footy manager job. You didn't take the job because of family reasons, which, you know, we would have loved to see you back in football. I feel like with that comment, you maybe know a little bit more about their strategy around Zach Butters, or is it more just your inclination?
No, it's just my inclination. I just know the capability Port Adelaide's got. And as you...
Through your discussions with them?
No, not through discussions. Right. I think the gentleman at either end of the table just highlighted the fact that there was a massive deal already. So that is already forward planning where you've got cap space in case he did sign the mega deal. So that says you'll be able to match anything going forward. But another gentleman who could command the highest deal on top of that, Cal, and you reported it during the week, the clubs are calling about Nick Daicos. Now, of course, that gets shut down immediately because Daicos and Collingwood go hand in hand. Can you fill us in a bit more about that? Because those stories just don't get plucked out of nowhere.
No, they never do. As much as people might think so, they definitely don't. And they're not just calling about Nick Daicos to his management. They've actually been communicating and trying to reach him directly. So that's the point here that I want to make. They've been communicating directly to the best player in the competition and sensing any opportunity to be aggressive, to be bold, to be brazen even, to see if he had any inclination about moving. Now, he hasn't driven this. He isn't going to do that, clearly, and Collingwood obviously aren't going to open the door to any trade if it did get to that. But I think it just shows what type of world we're living in the trade landscape now, that anybody is up for grabs potentially in the eyes of aggressive clubs.
How many clubs? We're talking 2 or 10 or...
We're talking multiple clubs.
Yeah, OK. And why are they calling him, not his management?
Both.
Yeah, right.
I mean, don't the best clubs and the creative clubs and the aggressive clubs go straight to players now as well?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it makes sense.
Off the back of Nick not winning the best and fairest,
No.
it's got anything to do with it? Because you on radio yesterday or the day before, you talked about the fact, I don't want to be aligned with this story at all, please, but you talked about the fact that Peter Daicos stormed out of the Collingwood best and fairest, and you've copped a fair bit of flack for that.
Well, he did. I mean, I was there. That's exactly what happened. And, you know, people have tried to debate with me whether he stormed out, whether he left in a huff. He definitely left frustrated and angry. Now,
Was he frustrated? Did he know the best and fairest result at that stage, do you think?
So I'm told that he knew the best and fairest result early, and that was Nick to come second. And he also doesn't love those events all the time anyway. Nick wasn't going to win. The club hasn't given a statement on it. I haven't been able to get on to Peter Daicos about it, but it's an interesting subplot in this entire narrative.
Just on the link of this story to that, though, this had started before the best and fairest.
Is that right? Yeah. Let's have a listen to Craig McRae talk about your Nick Daicos story and whether, well, he'd be going anywhere at all.
Congratulations to Nick Daicos, is now a three-time All-Australian at the age of 22. They came runner-up in the Brownlow medal again. Maybe a few more 16 disposal games might get you there next year, Nick. That's cheeky fly coming out.
Craig McRae at the best and fairest. Christian Petracca, this is a conversation that will continue to be had, Cal, and I don't think it's going to be wrapped up until 7:20 p.m. next Wednesday. Where's it at right now?
No movement, absolutely none. The clubs met on Tuesday. Gold Coast and Melbourne met to have brief discussions, but that didn't really go anywhere or get anywhere in terms of what this looks like going forward. So I agree with you. It's going to be a late call, and it needs to be as good a decision and trade package as possible for Melbourne at this point, Jim.
Does the Flanders deal, of course, Flanders heading to the Saints, pick 7 goes back to the Gold Coast, or is this part of Gold Coast trying to get enough points for their academy kids because of those rules tightening?
Now, 7's going to be on the table for Christian Petracca. It's just about what else now. And if I'm looking at the picks that both clubs have now, it is a great hand that Gold Coast have. Obviously, 7, now 8, 15 and 18, and a number of other picks there that they need the points for later on for their 5, 6 academy players. But Melbourne also has 24, 28 and a couple of other picks that have some points attached to them. So if I'm the Ds, I'm targeting 7 and 8, and then giving some points back to the Gold Coast Suns at the back end so that they still come out in a reasonable spot, because picks 7 and 8 don't actually mean that much to Gold Coast. They're going to be swallowed up on the bids anyway for Dylan Patterson and Zeke Ewan. We'll get to them later in the night. But they don't need those picks for players. They're getting the same players anyway. So Melbourne, if they can't get Bailey Humphrey, which remains still priority number one.
We keep hearing that Bailey Humphrey is a no chance that Gold Coast won't let him go. Perhaps Damien Hardwick has a sensitive side to him that may let him go, but all the noises is no chance.
Yeah, he's got family reasons to want to be back in Victoria, and I think he has pushed this. He's been driving a lot of this. So there is that element, but how strong have they been? It's hard to see them turning their back on their word now, Tom.
Yeah, and if you're going to go and catch up with the club, probably walking around the tan is not the place to do it, Jimmy. Stephen King and Nathan Jones were there as well.
And Stephen King stands out. He's over 200 centimetres tall.
That's right. So there's a lot of Melbourne...
So do you think that's, you guys know me, is that done deliberately so they are seen?
No,
or just to show him how good Melbourne is?
No, I think that's a genuine accident, that one. I think that's maybe a bit of naivety in the current landscape. It's probably the most, walked around area in Melbourne. The other thing with Melbourne and Petracca as well, Cal, is that I think a lot of it's optics. Like, they can't be seen to trade Petracca in the first week of the trade period because it looks like they're just moving him on. They have to take it deep. And I think that PR side of things is really important as well.
I think if Sam Flanders had chosen them, it would have been a much more straightforward deal. He was right in the running to be a Melbourne player, went with the Saints. It could have easily packaged it up to be Flanders and 6 or whatever the pick was that they've begun with and made that happen. But there's some complications now. I think the draft hand option for them is really strong after taking 2 first-rounders last year, 2 the year before. It's a way to fast-track it.
Jimmy, if you were a player, would you have chosen St Kilda or Melbourne?
Well, the way the Saints are going, the players that they've got in is saying that they actually want to be a final side this season. And Melbourne's got that ambition. Every side starts that. But it seems to be a longer burn for Melbourne, the way they're resetting their list. That's just from the outside.
That's not what they're saying, though. They're saying they're contenders.
But every club, I get why Stephen King's saying that, because if you're going to have a lot of players leaving, you want to say to the current players, so the Cozzy Pickett's of the world, the Jake Bowies, Langford, Lindsay, hey, we're still competing. Don't think this is a year where we're just going to meander. But while we're talking about the Gold Coast Suns, of course, Flanders and Humphrey, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, where's that at, Tom?
Well, it's going to happen next week, I think, unless something drastic falls over now. There'll be a board meeting at some stage over the next 4 or 5 days that will presumably tick it off. I think that will more than likely happen on Monday or Tuesday next week. The idea is that when he moves there, he'll live with Jared Harbrow, who of course played for the Gold Coast Suns and is the Indigenous manager at the club as well, which is probably a good fit given his role and his senior leadership position within the club. But you know, this has progressed now, Cal, to a point where I can't see it going any other way than Jamarra on probably a multi-year deal that is fairly cheap for playing for the Gold Coast Suns next year.
Very cheap. It'll be very cheap in terms of money.
What is very cheap, do you reckon?
Oh, I don't know.
300?
Around that sort of level, $300,000 across those 2 years, and a very low draft pick cost as well. So he's aware that he has to take a step back to take a couple of steps forward, and he's on board with that. We'll do a medical at the Suns this week as well, which will be another part of the box-ticking exercise.
Do you both like this move, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan to the Suns?
Yeah, I think it's a win-win for both of them, and I think Damien's taken a risk, and if it doesn't work, you can say, well, it's not our problem, move on.
What about this as a package, though? The Petracca, Jamarra Ugle-Hagan package versus going for Charlie Curnow. Which one would have been the better angle for you, for the Suns?
I think the Suns can still go for Curnow if they want. I'd still use Bailey Humphrey to go for Curnow.
Would you trade Bailey Humphrey for Curnow?
If he really wants to go back, yeah, I'd seriously think about it.
Yeah.
So they're adamant they are just not letting him go even for Charlie Curnow, but I like.
And that's not posturing either. Like, they're absolutely adamant with that, aren't they? Yeah. We'll talk about Zach Merrett and posturing in a few moments' time, because Charlie Curnow's coming up after the break as well. And Cal's wrap-up of all the big trades today, Starcevic, Oscar Allen, and so much more. You are watching Footy Furnace Trade Edition. Don't go anywhere. That's Michael Voss at the best and fairest in the last week, Hirdy. I just can't get it out of my head that will be either a speech that we look back on in 12 months' time and say, geez, that propelled them forward, or it could be the end of Michael Voss.
Well, it just shows real troubles at Carlton. I mean, Jimmy, that just shows an ununified football club where the senior coach says, I don't think we're unified, there's too much infighting, we're not working all together in the same direction. And that's not a great foundation to go into next season in, particularly at Carlton, which, you know, is a great football club but demands success. That would, I felt for Michael, and I see why he's doing it, because he's asking for unity. He's probably asked behind closed doors and hasn't got it. It's a message to the members, a message to the players, a message to the staff. But, yeah, the lack of unity would be a real worry. Well,
isn't it what they say, the first bit about fixing a problem is actually acknowledging it. And I think he did there. And that's what I took that conversation as, is, you know, we weren't aligned, we will be aligned. And he's a guy who's coaching for his coaching life there at Carlton, and he's going to go down the way he wants to go. And, you know, as they say, he was pretty authentic then.
Put yourself in the shoes of Charlie Curnow listening to that. Do you think the message seeps through to him, or directed at him at all? As you say, it goes to the players as well.
I'd go back the other way and say, if I'm the players, it's not a unified place and I want to get myself out of here. Like that's part of the message. I mean, all credit to Michael for putting the message across, but it does show a club that's not unified. Yeah. Players don't like stability. And unless you're stable from the chairman, through the CEO, to the footy manager, through to the coach, everything's stable, it's very hard to be successful.
And I don't think the reason that Charlie Curnow wants to leave is because of Michael Voss, but I also don't think their relationship is that strong, and I think that plays into it. So, Cal, this day last week, you told us that it's either Sydney or Carlton if Curnow wants to leave. Do you still feel the same way?
I think Geelong's still trying to see if they can get involved in this, but it's looking less and less likely by the day, isn't it? I mean, how are they going to do this without a player getting involved? And which of their players are, one, going to want to put their hand up after a grand final, and two, are they going to be hopeful or willing to let go? I just don't think it's... I think it's getting very, very difficult to see how Geelong, despite being his preferred home, get this one done, given Rowan Marshall is happening as well. In saying that, though, no deals have been put to Carlton yet. Yeah. So this is the quirk of this.
And he hasn't requested a trade anywhere yet either.
So when did you report on Charlie Curnow? It was July, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and then we made it pretty clear along the way that Sydney, Gold Coast and Geelong are the three places he wanted to go. Not one deal has been put from one club to Carlton.
So I think it's a bit of a standoff at the moment. So I don't think he's requested a trade to Geelong in case they can't get it done and it has to be Sydney. And the opposite is true as well. So, Hirdy, the Lexus keys to the trade, do any of these deals, or does this deal get it done if you're Carlton, do you think?
No, I think you need one more. I think you probably need a future first round, and whether Ollie Florence in or not, but a future first round, pick 11, Will Hayward, I think almost gets it done. If you've got to tip it over the edge, it's Ollie Florence. It's not ideal for Carlton in terms of talent and matching like to like. You've got two exceptional players, particularly Ollie Florence on the outside, which is what Carlton need. But those two picks, bringing more talent into your football club, particularly before Tasmania comes along, is very important.
Those two players as well are managed by Robbie D'Orazio, who manages Charlie Curnow. Yeah. So these conversations can be easier if some of the players are inside the tent. A future pick has to be involved for Carlton. They need a future pick for next year because of Cody Walker and the bid that's coming for him.
So why wouldn't the clubs get busy with it? Yeah, the clubs who are clearly keen on him would love Charlie Curnow. I think most clubs would love Charlie Curnow on the forward line. But just referencing Sydney and Geelong. Well, Sydney, let's just use that for example. Why wouldn't they try and get that deal done quickly and then get in the Bailey-Humphrey sweepstakes?
I think there's a reluctance from some clubs to put their hand up unless they know absolutely that the player wants to go to them before they start throwing players of their own up, because that creates the uncertainty within the locker room, doesn't it? Am I up for trade? Am I going to be a part of this?
But a trade may have not been asked for. They might have, but surely they've had off-the-record discussions where they're setting it up before they actually...
There's a middleman. It's Robbie D'Orazio.
Yeah,
so they go to him, he goes to the Blues. But between the clubs, nothing's been put forward.
Yeah. So I just think there's stuff that goes on that perhaps is not... Even I know that you guys get a lot of information, but yeah, there would be a discussion somewhere between middlemen and the two clubs, I think.
Yeah, I think it depends the trust between the two clubs as well. If you've got two list managers that know each other really well, for sure. If these two list managers, I'm not sure they do, Nick Austin and Mark Keane, if they don't... Chris Keane. Sorry, not Mark Keane, he plays for Adelaide. If they don't know each other too well, then it can be hard to develop that trust. So I think that plays into it as well. Zach Butters was pictured training today alongside a Carlton official, Cal. I always love these sightings, especially in October.
Yeah, Torrin Baker, who's a part of the coaching panel at the Blues, he and Zach Butters have a very long relationship dating back to Zach and Torrin's time at the Western Jets. So nothing to see here, but we love it. At this time of the year, look, I think they're one of 8 clubs or 9 clubs in Victoria that it's going to be chasing his signature next year, as well as Port Adelaide, clearly.
St Joseph's legend there, Torrin Baker. Show some respect.
Absolutely, Torrin Baker. Hello to you. Zach Merrett remains a massive story. Nothing has really happened behind the scenes. He still hasn't formally requested a trade. I've been intrigued, Hirdy and Jimmy and Cal, by the Essendon messaging with Brad Scott, Andrew Welsh and also Matt Rosa across the last week or two.
We committed to him, he committed to us, and like our CEO who moved into state committed to the club, I came and made a commitment to the club. I intend to see my commitment through and I expect our captain to do the same. He's contracted captain, so our club's position is that we will not be trading him under any circumstances.
But I can say he's playing at Essendon, and I can guarantee you day one of pre-season with Zach that things will be resolved and he will be the very best footballer, the very best champion player that he's been for the club and will continue to be.
The strong position of our club is Zach's contracted for the next 2 years is a really important, critical part of where we're heading, and he'll be at our club.
But yeah, Zach will be an Essendon player next year.
Do you expect him to formally request a trade?
If he does, nothing will change from our end, and Zach's fully aware of that.
That is proper alignment, Tom, and you'll probably touch on that now. But why wasn't this the game plan from the very start? Because as soon as we got, I guess, murmurings of this, we saw players do articles, one with Cal in particular, where there was clearly disappointment, and that sort of made it really awkward for Zach Merrett and, of course, the Hawks trying to get the deal done.
Yeah, I think Andrew Welsh has been a critical person in aligning this strategy, first as a football director and now as the president. And the strategy is really clear. The answer is no, except in an exceptional circumstance if Hawthorn offers something amazing.
So you broke the story, obviously, about the meeting with Hawthorn. Why hasn't he actually requested a trade now?
I can't answer that question. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think if he requested a trade now, nothing would happen for the next few days anyway. So I think Tom Petracca is just saying, look, we'll just wait another few days and do it at some stage, maybe over the weekend or Monday. But Hawthorn, the idea is that Hawthorn need to come once, they need to come hard, and there's not going to be back and forth. I still think there's a genuine chance that he ends up at the Hawks next year, but there's not going to be a to and fro. Like, it needs to be an exceptional deal that they can't say no to and it can sell to their members.
So for me, nothing below 2 first-rounders is going to get in the conversation. And this is not my opinion on what he's actually worth, because he's 30, but he's contracted 2 years. He's a captain. We know all this. It's a unique circumstances, but it's not going to get done in 2 first-round picks. It's just not going to get done. So there's going to have to be more added to it if it's going to shape their view.
And should the Hawks do that, Hirdy? Give more than 2 first-round picks for a player of Merrett's calibre?
I think Zach Merrett changes them from being a top 4 or top 6 team to potentially a grand finalist, and potentially, with everything else going right, you have to have everything go right. Will Day comes back, but he's the sort of player they exactly need.
Do you agree, Jimmy?
Yeah, he's certainly a changer for the Hawks. The Hawks were exceptional this year. I think we all acknowledge out of the final series, Will Day comes back into that side, but they were another midfielder and a quality midfielder short of being on the last day in September.
Braden Fiorini, Hirdy, what have you made of this?
Look, they're trying to get some more talented wingmen. They haven't probably got a lot of wingmen there at the side, but it was interesting to hear Craig Vosser earlier in the year actually talk about, or not hear, but read that, you know, they want a quality who's not 28. He's a 28-year-old. I think that, in all fairness to Craig, not trying to criticise him, not trying to go back on what he said, but things have changed, haven't they, Cal? I mean, the strategy has had to change. Back when that article was done, I'm sure they wanted to bring young talent in, high-end talent in, but they probably need just some bodies. They've lost 4 or 5 bodies of high games and experience in this trade period.
And they had 15 calf injuries and quads and hamstrings. It made it very hard for them to be an attractive place to anyone. Like, they went after Marcus Windhager, didn't get in. They went after Sam Flanders, didn't get in. There's other players who they've gone after throughout this period and haven't been in the mix because it's been a hard place to sell.
So you're an expert at putting lists together. You've done it for years. You've seen other people do it. What do Western? How do they put this list together now from where it is right now? Because it's obviously a very young list, and they've got a lot of players in that mid-season draft who, you know, they may be high in talent, they're not sure, but there's a lot of similar types of players.
This isn't a cop-out of an answer, but they need to draft well. I mean, it's the answer to everyone's problems, isn't it? They've got 5 picks inside the top 30. All these best premiership teams in recent years have drafted well. Look at Brisbane, they drafted well. It took them 8 years to get there. I'm not saying it has to take 8 years.
But in a poor draft, though? Or, I mean, we keep hearing it's a poor draft, and I'm repeating what everyone else is saying. I don't know. But is it that poor a draft?
It doesn't have the star quality of other drafts, but I've said this a few times. I think from pick 12 to pick 50, it's probably pretty similar to every other draft. I just think the first dozen don't have the same star quality and wow factor of the past couple of years. We've been blessed with a couple of very strong top 10s over the past 2 years.
Yeah, a draft expert actually said that this draft was boring today, which I find absolutely fascinating as well. Sort of nondescript, no superstars. We'll wait and see whether that's true or not, Hirdy. Oscar Allen is a player that's found his way to Brisbane, Cal. Pick 2 as the compensation goes back to the Eagles. And I'm fascinated by this one, mostly because it's been on the cards all year. And what we can tell you tonight is that Alex Witherden, the former Brisbane Lions and West Coast player, has played a crucial role as a conduit first between Brisbane and Oscar Allen, and more recently between Allen and then his actual move to Brisbane, the city, rather than the club. So that's an important role to play. Danny Daly's obviously very close to Alex Witherden as well. No surprise it's pick 2, though.
No surprise. This has been negotiated all the way through. A 6-year deal. Clearly more money than what Sam Draper is getting paid at the Brisbane Lions as well to tip him over to that Band 1 territory. But this is all coming off the back of a stagnating talks between West Coast and Brisbane until yesterday when Freo broke the deadlock to get this Starcevic deal done.
Yeah, tell us about the Starcevic deal.
Can I ask one question on the Oscar Allen one? If I'm an Essendon supporter, I'm upset, obviously. How far off was the money for Draper not to get a higher compensation? Or it just feels like, where's the transparency in that?
In the tens of thousands.
Right.
But also the factor that hurt the Bombers on Draper was that he's older. So age is a big factor within the free agency mix. He turned 27, Oscar Allen 26.
It doesn't seem that Oscar Allen, they get 2, Draper, they get, 19. There's not that big a difference between those 2 players.
No, there isn't. And this is where the free agency system has to change, and is a good chance to change by the end of next year as well.
Cal, the mega trade period. So everyone does get a win out of this when you really break it down. Of course, West Coast get their man. They also get a nice high pick there. Brisbane get the compensation and still have picks, and of course they're going to need some picks for their own academy kid. And Fremantle, theirs is important because that pick was 23, 24. Yeah. It's really Judd McVie.
Well, they traded pick 12 for pick 20 and 24, so basically turned pick 12 into pick 20 and Judd McVie. Melbourne wanted 24. They got that deal done straight away after this one was done. So Brisbane get the points to match for Dan Annable. That's the important part for them. They needed more points for this Gun Academy kid. And Brandon Starcevic, a 2-time premiership player, goes to the Eagles on a 4-year deal. Can get up to 6 years with some triggers being hit. And that's because of a concussion or what? They just want to make sure they look after him? Yeah, there's a lot of contingencies within that. And that rolling 3-year period where you get the payout if a concussion does happen, a career-ending concussion, that's where that's been built into that. And that's the Judd McVie deal. That was originally, I think, pick 23. It's now become pick 24. By the night of the draft, it'll be, about pick 30 or thereabouts, Cal. So Judd McVie will play for the Fremantle Dockers next year. More to come on Footy Furnace Trade Edition. The Dogs, Adelaide, Geelong. They've had a big day, the Cats, haven't they? And also Port Adelaide Football Club. Stay with us. Welcome back to Footy Furnace Trade Edition. Cal, you broke a story on Riley Sanders yesterday, the contracted Western Bulldogs player. What can you tell us? Well, Adelaide have asked the question, and this just shows how willing they are to build out their midfield. They've looked, obviously, at Christian Petracca. He didn't go there. They backed away a little bit from that one. And then Clayton Oliver, they had a quick discussion on and moved on. But Riley Sanders was a target. He's signed for next year. obviously a top 10 pick from a couple of seasons ago, was squeezed out of that pseudo-elimination final at the end of the season against the Dockers. So where they sort of sensed an opportunity was there. In the end, the Dogs aren't going to let him go. He's not going to pursue it, but it's one to keep an eye on in the future because everyone thinks it was just Tasmania. Well, this is where Adelaide maybe sensed an opportunity. His brother actually plays in the sample as well.
Yeah, and it's exactly what the Crows are looking for as well, that sort of player. So keep an eye on the Crows for the next week, that's for sure. They've got money and they've certainly got the desire to go and find some players. So James Worpel is a Geelong player, but Rowan Marshall, where's that deal at? What are both clubs looking for, Cal?
Well, you talk about the picks that are being thrown up. I'm not of the view as much that they need the cap space. What's your view?
I think Geelong's view is that St Kilda needs the cap space, and as a result, Marshall is probably surplus to the needs. But it doesn't mean the Saints won't play hardball as well, about future picks, current picks. I still think Rowan Marshall deal gets done, Jimmy. It's just about exactly how it looks on Wednesday night next week.
Yeah, clearly they're selling Marshall playing a lot of footy forward. Of course, we want to see King back on the forward line for the Saints. So he'd be the second fiddle on the forward line, and then, of course, you're going to pay that much money for DeConing to come in and ruck. You'd be the second ruck. He goes down to Geelong. He's the number one ruck. He will just play every minute of every game.
Port Adelaide is a club that in 2023, via their chairman, David Koch, said they will never rebuild.
I think rebuild is an excuse for failure. People are asking for a free pass and saying, we're not going to make finals because we're rebuilding. Well, if you're not in the game to at least aim for finals, that's always been our view.
So I respect that. I rate that. Collingwood's in that mindset as well. Geelong, the Sydney Swans. But is it feasible to have that philosophy now if you're a Port Adelaide person, Hirdy?
Well, they finished 13th. They've still got an elite midfield, or elite top line 3 midfield, Jimmy, and still got Georgiades up forward and a couple of cross half back. But I would say they don't have a list that can get back up the ladder unless they top it up with some better players and draft picks. And it looks like they're not going to have draft picks, Cal, but I think they are almost in a rebuild now.
They're a chance, as you say, Hirdy, to not have one draft pick this year.
It's amazing, isn't it?
And just upgrade rookies. In saying that, they are still hoping and waiting for AFL approval of Dougie Cochran to be eligible for their Next Generation Academy for next year. Won't go into the details on all of that, Jim, but we've watched him play. He is a super exciting player. I think he's the clear #1 favourite for next year. And if the tick of approval goes their way, then they'll have to amass the points. But that's the beacon of hope in terms of the next couple of years.
Do you think they're almost in a rebuild? I mean,
well, no, not quite.
So how do they get from here to be a top 4 team without rebuilding?
Well, the Butters decision is going to be big in that too, isn't it? Because if they match the deal next year, it's 3 first-round picks and that happens quickly. Is it rebuild or is it just work on the go? I mean, Connor Rosie's 25, Jason Horne-Francis is 22, 23.
Georgiades is still young. And in 12 months' time, as Cal highlighted, Cochrane, Salopek and some other kids in their academy NGA zone. They've got some special talents coming through. Just got to be patient.
Waiting for your nickname on Dougie as well. That's really important.
Well, there's another one at Port Adelaide called Zemez Pilot, so I've already got a few nicknames.
I'm sure you do. What are Richmond doing?
Not much. They're pretty open to not doing much this year. It's a very relaxed recruiting team there. They've got picks 3 and 4 this year. They're open to potentially sliding one of those picks back. Matt Rosa, the boss of Essendon's list, has sought out the Tigers and also the Eagles to see if they can move up the board. At the moment, they're pretty comfortable with Tigers at 3 and 4. They have to match a bid later on for Louis Kellaway, their father's son, the son of Duncan, and also get this Tyler Young deal done. But other than that, put the feet up, Lee Hartley.
Not too bad. Rye Geesham's on with you today as well, and that was a good chat. So the other news that we had over the last 24 hours is that David Swallow is open to a comeback only 5 weeks after he retired. I'm not sure there's going to be any suitors for him, but he's certainly open to that idea. And
what about West Coast?
Well, that would be the club, but I'm not sure they're locked in yet. They haven't committed, so that's one to watch, but it hasn't happened yet. And Josh Kelly's out for the majority of next season due to a hip injury. He's having the same surgery that Andy Murray had as a tennis player as well, which made him his career go longer, but it certainly hurt him in the short term. Cal, you're up next with your draft preview. Plenty still to cover on Trade Furnace. Stay with us. Well, not only is Cal Twomey a contract and trade expert, he's also a draft expert. And doesn't the draft order look a bit bizarre at the moment, Cal?
Yeah, someone's called it the Noah's Ark draft with the 2. Everyone's got 2, 2, 2. Yeah. West Coast 1 and 2, Richmond 3 and 4, Essendon 5, 6, Gold Coast with the back-to-back picks, and then Hawthorn and Carlton, of course. Those 2 picks obviously might be traded, but I'm not as strong on this draft being a boring draft as whoever the draft expert you spoke to.
He's a good man, the one who said it, yeah.
But I do think it lacks that star quality right at the top. In saying that, these are the guys who are right in the very top rungs. Willem Dersma has pushed himself there. We know the family links there. He's a Brendan Goddard style of player. Zeke Ulen is the Errol Goulden of this year's draft. Cooper Duff-Tyler, the best tall in it. Dylan Patterson, I call him the Rocket. You'll never see a more exciting player off halfback or the wing. He just goes for it. Dan Annabelle's tied to Brisbane, so another Lions jet coming through. Sullivan Roby, he's the big riser, Jim. We watched him a couple of weeks ago and he dominated for the Eastern Rangers. Xavier Taylor's a star. I love the way he plays. Harry Dean will go to the Blues. Dyson Sharp from South Australia, and then Aiden Schubert as well from South Australia, key forward. But that's the top rung. What, 4 of them in the top 10 were off limits.
Let's have a look at Dersma. Cal and Jimmy and Hirdy, talk us through what he can offer.
Well, as Cal touched on, I think it's a good comparison when you watch him live. He's got the same frame as Brendan Goddard. He has that ability to play as a mid, but you can park him at half-back, you can put him at the wing, you can play as the high half-forward. What impressed me most, Cal, when watching him live is actually how strong overhead he is.
Yeah.
And he's pretty tough and brave. He's willing to stand under the footy and got some class. And we've got here Zeke Ulen, who you mentioned is the Errol Goulden. It's just work rate and ball use that jumps out at you.
And dominated last year as a bottom major, played some great VFL footy for the Suns. The younger brother of Bodie, of course.
He's a modern winger, isn't he?
He is, absolutely. He'll come in and play AFL next year. This year he missed 6 months with a back injury, so he'll be a star. Cooper Duff-Tyler played some time with the Bombers VFL late in the season. He trained with them earlier in the year as well. Can play forward too, so models himself on the TDK style of ruckman, but also a bit of Riley Thilthorpe there, like this moment.
So he starts his footy as a forward but wants to be a ruck, or vice versa?
Ruck who can go a little bit forward, but I think clubs are looking at him in this part of the draft because he can do those type of things. And here we have Dylan Patterson, the Rocket. Let's see if we can go for one of his runs because he is super exciting. There he goes.
The Rocket.
You can't catch him.
So the Rocket can catch on? The Rocket will catch on.
I don't think he likes the Rocket. He wants it to be the glitch, like there's a glitch in the game when he gets the ball.
He wants his own nickname.
The glitch.
We're talking about a confident young man, but he goes to the Suns, and this is why they have to get these points to package up.
Are you nervous this year? Because every time we reflect on Cal Twomey's draft board, you probably nail it 98% of the time. The difficulty this year, because there's guys who are definitely going to have to be reliant on the right club to go to, not necessarily just the best talent available.
I'm a bit nervous because I think it's hard to predict Richmond onwards who those obvious Group A's. Sometimes you can lean on the fact that it's a bit obvious for everybody. The 2023 draft, everyone knew the top 6 or so. Sanders, Watson, and McKercher, Walter. I think it's a bit different all over the place now. Richmond with those 2 picks will be fascinating to see who they pick, given they took the 6 first rounders last year.
Sorry, Hirdy, you did something?
Just doesn't look too boring to me. Looks like quite a good draft. I look very excited.
I mean, I'm no draft expert, clearly. Quick one, Essendon trying to move up the draft order. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so they've got the 4, 5 and 6 now. They are keen to get up the board, and I think that'd be a targeted approach to see if they can grab Willem Dersma.
Yeah, amazing.
I think they're going to struggle to do it, but they're going to have a crack.
Imagine if they did that and then get Zane Dersma into next year, get 3 Dersmas at the one club. Not quite 4 Danaher's, but not far off.